So welcome everybody to lecture 6, Databases and Information Systems, which of course can also be taken as information retrieval. So today I will first say something about your experiences with exercise sheet 5, which was about more advanced SQL, and there will be no lecture next week. As you maybe remember from the beginning, I think it's also written on the wiki, since the lectures are a little bit longer than usual, here we almost take 2 hours every time, there will be 2 dates, 2 weeks without a holiday, but we just create our own holiday. So one of these wonderful holidays will be next week. And you also have more time for your exercise sheet. Of course, that doesn't mean that you should start 1 week later. You should start now, and then you just have more time for it. It's not that the sheet is twice as much work. It's normal work, but still it's always good to start after the lecture. So the next lecture will be in 2 weeks from now. And it will also be kind of a new topic, so that's why we did it like that. So after that we have 3, so no lecture next week, and then 3 more lectures before Christmas about something else. Okay. Today we have a slightly new topic, so we had 3 lectures, we had 2 lectures about search engines, 3 lectures about databases, and today we have a lecture about knowledge graphs and SPARQL, and I will explain this and relate this to, it's not completely unrelated to database, actually strongly related, and we will see that. And the exercise sheet, I will talk about it later. Let's first talk about your experience with the 5th sheet. So interesting, it was a little more work, it was more advanced stuff. So some of you wanted a new topic. Let's see, exercise was very diverse in terms of tasks. Very interesting how queries are processed by an RDBMS. We looked at that in detail. I really like the style of the exercises and that we have a nice environment to implement and test our written functions. I like the sheet, even though more work than last sheets. Very interesting to see which of the sequences of the first exercise was better, because my intuition was different at first. Very interesting. You have some intuition, but yeah, that often is wrong, and by just doing the math you get a more precise result. It felt a bit repetitive to write the queries. I think that has to do with the fact that it's already the 3rd database lecture. Then there was a group concat required. I think I wasn't aware of that, otherwise I would have explained it, so you had to Google that. When you do group by, the only thing I mentioned in the lecture is that you can aggregate. You somehow have to, for the values which are not for the variables that are not in the group by, you have to say, how do I aggregate them? Let's maybe quickly go through that again so that we all see it again. That was here on sheet 5 somewhere, we had a part about group by. Yes, and then the question is, how do you aggregate? And of course you have many ways to aggregate, and we just talked about max. Of course you can also do min, you can take the average, right? The question is, here you group by year, so all these have the same year. What do you do with these values? How do you get one value from all 3? Of course you can, then there's max, there's min, there's average, and there's also concatenate them all together with a separator. And that's group concat, and you had to Google that. Just forgot to mention that in the lecture. And somebody wrote, I think several wrote, craving for a new topic. I understand that. Of course, I should say that in a real database lecture, you have like 12 lectures only about the stuff, which we now compressed in 3 lectures. I think these 3 lectures were needed, but now we actually go to a new topic. And the new topic is knowledge graphs. So let me start by, and it will be a lot of examples, demos, and I think it's a very interesting lecture. It's also, it's not completely new, but we revised it a lot because now we already know a lot about databases. So it was, again, quite a lot of work for us, and I'm sure there will be all kinds of small mistakes. I will come back to that later. So the resource description framework is really a data model, and we will see what it means in a second. All the data, whatever it is, so in the database world, your view on data is tables. And now in the Knowledge Graph Resource Description Framework world, RDF, you say everything is triples. And what is triple? A triple is like a simple sentence with a subject, a predicate, and an object. And this full stop is here for a reason. It's like a full stop, end of the sentence. And here are some example triples. So they are called triples. And already here, by the way, you see it also looks a bit like a table. So it's not like totally different from databases. Actually, it's closely related. You can just say, okay, this is just a table with 3 columns. The first column is the subject, the second is the predicate, the third is the object, and actually you're right. In a way, it's just that. And let's look. You can read these like a short sentence. Nicole Kidman acted in the movie Eyes Wide Shut. So here we are still with the movie theme. Many more examples in the following. Brad Pitt acted in Burn After Reading. The Coen brothers directed Burn After Reading. Who knows the movie Burn After Reading? Okay, some people with good movie taste here. So it's very important for the exam. We might ask you questions about movie scenes. No, we won't. Okay, but it's anyway an important aspect of the lecture to educate you about good movies. These are good movies. So this is, this one is directed by Stanley Kubrick and so on. So I think that's clear enough. Again, we have no order. It's a set. Concerning the input, it's not a multi-set. You can only have each triple once. Why is this called knowledge graph? So this, now I said it's simple sentences, triple. Well, you can view the exact same thing as a graph. And note the logo here of RDF, of this data model, is 3 things, but they are like also connected in a graph-like thing. And here's the exact same information as a graph. Just when you have triples, and now when you have a table, you couldn't do that. But when you have a triple, and the second thing is like a predicate, then you can do that very naturally, right? For example, here we have a movie, Burn After Reading, and now we have several triples associated with this. We just do this as edges here. Ethan Coen, the director, directed, so the predicate is the label of the edge, and here an entity. So we have all kinds of entities which are nodes in the graph. Here it's directors, actors, and movies, but it can be anything. And triple, that's what's written here, is just an edge. So one edge, you can read it as Stanley Kubrick, the subject, directed, the predicate, the movie Eyes Wide Shut, the object. So very naturally, you get a graph. So set of triples and a graph is really the same thing. Now, so I don't know who heard information retrieval before. This was always a lecture on information retrieval, but in a very basic form. And now that we do more databases, and we have already heard more databases, we do more of the real stuff. And this is like a toy version of a knowledge graph. They don't really look like that in the real world. And in the real world, you have things like IRIs. And IRI is like the thing you have in the web browser, which is an URI, except that you have all kinds of funny characters are allowed, like German umlauts. And so IRI is just a little bit more general than what you can put in a browser. And IRIs are often not human readable. So for example, now let's look at, so we've already heard about Wikidata quite a bit. This Nicole Kidman has this, and it looks like a URL, and actually you can also click on it. Let's just click on it, and it's interesting that on some browsers you get this. This is not the link which I typed, so I have to, if I go here, so there should be a wiki. Didn't I type Wikidata? Yeah, I typed Wikidata, but still I don't get the, yeah, I'm on a different browser. I did type Wikidata in Google. Yeah, Google is confused probably of what happened with OpenAI, so they are all going mad at the moment. It's very interesting that I mean, it's not important, but I Googled Nicole Kidman Wikidata, and I don't get the Wikidata link. Or do you see it? Am I blind?
The one with the picture next to it.
The one with the picture? Oh, it says Wikipedia on top. Oh, yes. That's confusing. It says Wikipedia, but it's Wikidata. I'm sorry. Okay. So here we have a URL, and it's not quite that one, but it's important that you have this ID here, Q37459, Q37459. So that's just the ID of Nicole Kidman in Wikidata. And I think we have already looked at that a bit in the first lecture, right? That things have an ID in Wikidata. I won't do that again. So the identifier is not the name, and this looks like something we already had in databases, right? It's just an ID, except now that the ID is not only this Q thing, but it's a whole URL, so that it's on the whole planet unique, right? Wherever you type this on the planet, this has a unique meaning. And now here are some example triples, and let me introduce one more thing. These full IRIs, like these extended URIs, are a bit long, which is why you abbreviate them. So here, and we will see that this is just this WD colon is just an abbreviation for this https://wikidata.org entity/. We will see more of that in the following. And there should not be either the one is missing here or the one is missing here. And the one, let me just fix that. There should be no one here. And here, and now we have triples. So for example, we have the triple, the name, this entity, which stands for Nicole Kidman, has the label, and here is the name, and this is the name in Hindi. Yeah, this is Devanagari script, I think. Did I pronounce that correctly? Anybody? Devanagari, I think. Yeah, it's just Hindi script, so you have that. It's very nice. You have actually the names in 300 different languages. Here we have, and I think up here I have some more information. So here I have the triple. This thing, which stands for Nicole Kidman, has this property, which is also in IRI, WDT P19, which stands for place of birth. We will see more of that. And the place of birth is this, which is again something. Q18094. Let's maybe enter that here, or just enter Q1809. No, this was a typo. I'm sorry. Too many things at the same time. Oh no, the keyboard here is different. 18094. Yeah, and we get Honolulu, right? Honolulu as Q18094. So please ask if something is not clear. So this triple here just says Nicole Kidman, place of birth, Honolulu. But things are just expressed in identifiers. Everything is expressed in identifiers. So when you look at the data, and one of the data sets we give you for the exercise sheet will look like this, it will just be relatively cryptic. It will look like this. The only thing you can read directly sometimes are these things on the right. So on the right you can have a string, or here for example you can have a date. Here you even have data types. This will not be important for the lecture, but just for the sake of completeness. Okay. And this is date of birth. You please ask any question if something is not clear, otherwise I proceed. Okay, so is this used? Yes, this is used a lot. So Wikidata, we've already, actually it's now 19 billion triples. This is not completely up to date, doesn't matter. There is here some data sets. For example, there's such a knowledge graph. Let me just go back to this slide, right? This was an example with a few triples. And now people have compiled sets of such triples for really huge data. So for example, there's such a data set about, and we will see it in a minute. I have some example queries, all the protein data in the world. All the protein sequences, the genes that encode them, to what diseases they are related, on which part of the gene I have what information, just modeled as triples. So this triple idea seems to be a good idea because people are using it. So 110, and that's a B, that means billion. I need to get some water. 110 billion triples. And you see another interesting thing here. The predicates are relatively small, right? This vocabulary, so to speak, with which you express your sentences. There's a similar thing about chemistry. All the chemistry knowledge of the world, 124 billion triples. So it's like this substance has this formula, this chemical property is similar to this substance. There has been this experiment with the substance in this lab, and this is the result. And that's the result if you put it into a mouse or a human. It's amazing, these data sets. We will see a bit more in a second. OpenStreetMap, who knows OpenStreetMap? Who has heard of OpenStreetMap? Great, we will see OpenStreetMap. It's also a knowledge graph, or at least you can model it as one, 14 billion triples. And it's also, I mean, these things, they're consortia, so big groups of people curating this. This is just crowdsourced like Wikipedia. It's amazing that it works. We will see it in a second. Here's another one, that's all computer science publications in the world. We have also seen that this is relatively small, but a billion is also large. And actually most companies, not only the IT heavy one, actually have their own knowledge graph. So of course Google, Amazon, Microsoft, but also companies which produce products, Walmart, Airbnb, and so on. So now we have data in a slightly different format, and it's how do I get this a bit further back? Yes. The question is, how do you query it? So, and there's a query language. So now we have this data in this triple form, which is like a database with a table with 3 columns. And there's a language specifically for this, and it's called SPARQL. And I have an own part only about SPARQL, but just to get a first impression, here is how SPARQL looks like. And you already see similarities to SQL. There's also select. Now there's where, not from. And now let's maybe, I have an own part, but let's already understand this query, because you can kind of, you write triples. So just like your data is triples, your query is also triples. So that's already different from SQL. So here I say, I'm looking for, and I'm, if you remember, this is place of birth, and this is Honolulu. So kind of, I'm looking for triples where, I'm looking for people who are born in Honolulu, right? Every triple that matches it, person will be a person who is born, this will be a person who is born in Honolulu. And then I also want to match this triple, and when I match this triple, I get the name of the person. So I just write triples, and I put variables in the thing in which I'm interested in. And here I put the same variable, because I want the name of the person that is born in Honolulu. And then in the select clause, I put my things, just as for SQL, with the difference, there's a question mark in front of variables. In SQL, we don't have question marks, and there's no comma, right? So it's the usual thing. Every language has to do these minor little things differently, so that to maximally confuse everyone. Okay, we have a whole part about SPARQL, just the first impression. And again, and here, not again, but I haven't shown it in that detail yet. Here you see how these prefixes work, right? So I don't want to write this long IRI here, because maybe I have to write many of them. So I just introduce an abbreviation here. I say WDT, which is, WD stands for Wikidata. The T, I'm not sure. It's just an abbreviation for this. So when I have this P19, it's like I plug P19 here. And the angle brackets, that's just what RDF does. It's just put IRIs in angle bracket to distinguish them from strings. Has no other meaning. Okay, so first this is all introduction. And this is just for your information. So one of the strengths, so what's, you may ask yourself, or you will ask it yourself in the following, what's really the difference to databases? Think about combining different databases. You have made your database about movies, your friend has made another database about movies, totally different tables. I mean, you've done this for 3 exercises now, right? The tables, the information is the same, but the tables look completely different. It's very hard to put your 2 databases together if your tables are completely different. Just think about it. And this is, in practice, it's a huge nightmare. You have data from this hospital, from that hospital. They all have patient data, patient diagnosis, what they did at the temperature they took on that date, but in completely different formats. You can't get it together. Now, in RDF, in this triple world, all you need is to put the 2 together. And let me just show you one example, because it's so nice. Let's, for example, go to the wiki. Let's take Germany, the country we're in at the moment. So Germany is Q183 in Wikidata. And here I have all the triples about Wikidata, saying it's a state and so on. Here's an image. And now, somewhere in here, and that's very... that's very typical. I see here, I know the people who entered it here say, I also know there's this huge knowledge graph or data set OpenStreetMap, and there Germany also exists. And there Germany has the ID 51477. And we can just click on it, because these identifiers are all like URLs. If we click on this, I don't know why it takes so long. And now we are in OpenStreetMap. OpenStreetMap, Germany is 51477. It's called a relation because it's several things together. That's not important now. And now we can also look here so you also see you have key value pairs here, which are also like triples. So it's like saying Germany has the ISO blah 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 code DE. Germany admin level 2, which means it's a country. Germany has this currency, the euro, and so on. And if we go down, 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 so we also see we have some information here, which we also have in Wikidata, like the name, but it's typically other. And here we also say, oh, by the way, in Wikidata, this is Q183. So very typical for these data sets. Yeah, each data set knows of other data sets and say, oh, by the way, in this other data sets, this is the ID. So OpenStreetMap says, in Wikidata, this is the ID. Wikidata says in OpenStreetMap, it's that ID. And that's also just triples, right? So for example, here I have X'd them out for you. So in Wikidata, in the input data, when we look at it as a set of triples, we will have this Wikidata, and then there's a special relation predicate, which has this funny name. It's just a predicate for this is the OpenStreetMap thing, and this is related to this. And in the OpenStreetMap data, if you download it, you will have this triple. This thing, which is Germany from OpenStreetMap, in Wikidata has this ID. So one of them would be good enough to connect it, but you usually have both of them. And let me just show what's possible, just one first glimpse. So this is now SPARQL. We haven't talked about it a lot. Now I can write one query which just says, and you see some elements here of the things we have already seen. And it's just one query which just questions both databases. And let's just do that. Okay, that was quick. And now, and this is the power network of the EU. So if I zoom, let me just zoom into here and go here. So here I have a power line, which is probably somewhere in OpenStreetMap. Yeah, so that's a power line. It even says how much voltage it has and so on. And why is that possible? So I just said this part of the, take it from OpenStreetMap, and this part here, take it from Wikidata. I couldn't have done that with a database without knowing a lot about the schema. And here's a quiz question for you. If I zoom out, without knowing much about SPARQL yet, look at this map for 3 seconds. But you already know a bit about what's this minus? What do you think this minus is? Any idea? Just guessing from the language model-like from the query. And why? Think about, so you don't know a lot about the language yet, it's the power network of the EU. Let me go back here. And why do I need to combine OpenStreetMaps? And so OpenStreetMap has the information about where there's power lines. You don't have geographic information like this in Wikidata. And Wikidata knows which countries are in the European Union. This information is not in OpenStreetMap typically. So this is asking which countries are in the European Union. And this gives me all the power line, and then it's just combined. So what do you think, minus? Why the minus? While you're thinking, let's just comment it out and ask the query again. Okay. What's the difference to the picture before? What? Can you say it again? Did you see the difference or did you not see it? Here's. Now you see it. Okay, now you see it. Okay. Yeah, you have to be careful how you. It's not easy to ask queries. So this is all countries. This here says is a member of the European Union, and this says minus the countries which have been a member but for which there was an end date, right? There's one country with an end date and I have to subtract that. Otherwise I get countries which have been in the European once but are no longer. Okay. So this kind of thing is possible with knowledge graphs. There are big knowledge graphs out there, so it's pretty fascinating stuff. No UK, yeah, that's correct. So now let's talk a bit more about the query language. So SPARQL, what is SPARQL? So you already see SQL in there, and that's deliberate. So it's SQL, but a bit longer. And SPARQL is defined as SPARQL Protocol and RDF Query Language. So SPARQL stands for something where the S stands for SPARQL. That's called a recursive acronym, right? So SPARQL, the S in SPARQL stands for SPARQL. Think about it. So, and in the following, so in the last lectures, we were a little bit more formal about SQL, not about all parts, but about the basic select from where. This we define pretty formally, and then we were a bit more by example. So SPARQL, we will just learn it by example. Also, we just have one lecture, and also because it's enough, because you will see it. And like SQL, the basic language is actually very simple. So basic SQL queries, select from where, quite easy to understand. But then, of course, you have this huge standard around it. The nice thing is for SPARQL, the standard is freely available. So here, this W3C, this is it's a web. It's somehow from the World Wide Web Consortium, the w3.org. And they just have a standard here, and so if you like to read RFCs or standards, here's the document which just defines everything, including, I think, at the very end, is it at the very end? Let me just find that, if you are interested. So this is really the complete, it's just one big HTML document. Yeah, the grammar is also here somewhere. Yeah, here you have the grammar in some Bacchus-Nauer form. So even if you, so it's all there. It's one big document, actually not completely unreadable. SPARQL and SQL are essentially the same, like two programming languages are the same. Doesn't mean it doesn't make sense to have both of them. And so the last part of the lecture and also half of the exercise sheet will be about translating SPARQL to SQL. Now, of course, there are engines which, once again, it's similar to programming languages, which kind of translate SPARQL directly, but there are also engines which just are database engines that take a SPARQL query, translate it to SQL, then execute the SQL query. And it's very instructive to understand, and it also exists in the real world how this is done. It's surprisingly easy. So, and it will be exercise 1 of the exercise sheet to implement it. A very interesting exercise. So, Let's take one example query. So that's, let's maybe go back to this data here. So this is data containing information about who acted in which movie, also who is married to who or was married to whom. Here we don't have information about time of marriage. Nicole Kidman was married to Tom Cruise at some point. Let's just look at acted in and married to. And now let's look at, go back to this query. So look at this query. You don't know a lot of SPARQL yet. What do you think that query will output? Think about it. You can write it in the chat or just tell me. Yeah?
Like a married couple that have both played in the same film.
That's correct. Married couples that have both played in the same film. That's exactly what the query computes. And I have another slide, but let me already say it here, how to think about this. I mean, you're looking for assignments to these variables such that all the triples here exist. That's what you do, right? I'm looking for two persons and a film so that all these triples exist in my graph. That's it. So I want this person to have acted in a film, this other person to have acted in the same film. So that's why I have the same variable here, right? If I do film 1, film 2, I get something different. And the two people are married to each other. And even without having a formal definition of the semantics, you can understand what this query does. And especially after you've seen a few more examples. And we will see more examples, and even more in the exercise sheet. Like in SQL, the result is always a table. You will get a table, and we will see more examples in the following. So here you will get a table with 3 columns, person 1, person 2, film, and the result will just be a table. 1 row for each person, film, tuple. And yeah, that's what I just said. 1 table row for each. So this is like the semantics of SPARQL in one sentence. It's not formal, but I think it's enough for this lecture and the exercise. You have 1 row for each assignment to these variables so that all the triples here exist. So that's SPARQL. Quite a nice and intuitive query language. So, no questions. Yeah, and what will help us to understand the semantics more is in the last part we will translate SPARQL to SQL, and then you see what the corresponding SQL query is. And here's another way to understand SPARQL queries. So let's look at that query again. Since it's triples, and I told you in the beginning, triples are very naturally viewed as a graph. You can also view a query as a graph. Right? So this is my query, which is just consisting of 3 triples. So I have a graph with 3 edges. So my nodes are now variables, or at least some of them. Also some nodes here could be fixed things, but here they are variables. So you have a person and another person, married to, acted in, and this is the same film, so they both point towards the same thing. And so you can think of answering the query, and I just leave it for you to imagine. Think of the data as this big graph, and now I'm just looking, I'm taking this as a template and looking, where does this match in my graph? Where do I have this structure of 2 people married to each other acting in the same movie? So it's like, and there's a problem in mathematics which is doing exactly that, like you find subgraphs with particular properties. So you can, and actually that's the reason I'm also saying this first, because it's useful to think of it like that, and also in the standard you find a lot of speak of patterns and graphs. It's often called knowledge graphs, graph patterns, and that's the reason, because like pattern matching. And that's what I just said. So wherever you have a match in the graph, and then you just read off the 3 values for the 3 variables, and then that's 1 row in your result. Now let's go to so these were again with our toy examples. Let's go to the real thing. So in the real world we have IRIs. So this would be a more typical query. And let's maybe go to a real SPARQL engine now, and let's type a query here. So now let's say we are looking for people who are born in Honolulu. So first I'm writing a triple here. I think I also call it person here. And here you see something. I will talk more about it in a second. Now I want to know place of birth. I could go to Wikidata, look up the ID for that, but here I can just type place of birth, and it tells me that's W. Maybe let's make it 1 larger. Okay, it looks a bit funny now. Can you see it like that in the last row? Is that large enough? Yeah? Maybe, okay, good. So now this is the predicate WTP19, and I even get a mouse over that it's the place of birth. And I want a particular place of birth. I even get suggestions here. They are even ordered, so that probably means that most of the people in Wikidata are born in Prague for some reason. Okay. Okay, here we have Honolulu, and indeed it's Q180. So if I would do that, now I just get all people, and here I can write star, which means all the variables. You can also do that in SQL, by the way, but we haven't done that, so let me just do person here. Now what will this compute? All people who are born in Honolulu, right? And here they are, and I don't get the people, but I get their IDs. So 1,032 people. Let's click on 1 and check it. So that's Puanami van Dorp, okay, who is human. Okay, place of birth, Honolulu. Yeah, so it's correct. It's in the data like that. And now maybe we also want the name. And now here it would be like this. So there's a predicate which is called label. Now it has why is it called RDFS and WT? These are just abbreviations, right? This thing, and let me, so instead of this, I could just equivalently write the following, just so that that is absolutely clear. This is really just notation. But that's just not nice to read, right? That's now a full IRI. Maybe let's leave it like that for a second. And now I have, it's called person label. Maybe let's call it person name. I can call the variables however I want. And let's also output the person name. Okay, why do I get the person so many different times? Do you think? Why do I get it so many different times? This should look, so if I go here, do you see the difference? It's actually the name in different languages, right? Just happens to be the same. So these are not very well-known people, so the names are just all in Latin script, but if we go to a more, I don't know, let's take, okay, Albrecht Dürer, the painter here. Okay, that's maybe if we look at all the entered languages, now we also get in other scripts, right? Devanagari and Cyrillic and so on. So we also get, of course, in most languages just written the same and so on. So you just have the names in many different languages. There's something, it's not important for the sheet, but I'm showing it to you. Now you can say, give me just the things in English language. Now I just have the people in Honolulu with the name in English. Now I have each of them once. And again, see, this should remind you of databases, right? Since it's a table and I have the name 4 times, I just have repeated it 4 times, like in join, cross product sort of thing. Okay, maybe I also only want those with Hindi names. Okay, 9 people, for 9 of them I have the Hindi names, or maybe I want the Arabic names. No, that was AT, doesn't exist. I think R, Arabic names, I have 309, and so on. So it's amazing, right, that all this, and it's actually there in 200 other languages. All this information is in Wikidata, this one data set. Here we see it, by the way, 19 billion triples. people, I think, have problems with right when it's millions, billions, you easily lose track of how large it is. These 3 more digits, that's quite a difference, right? 19 billion is really a lot. Let me just, I think I showed it, web size. Billion is a lot, right? There's this page which measures the size of the World Wide Web, like the real pages with content, so it's around 50 billion. So billion is a lot even nowadays, 50 billion. Okay. So nice. So now we have that information. And here, this again, this is just a full IRI. I could just abbreviate this as RDFS label. That's why you always see it like this. This is exactly the same query. Exactly the same query, just nicer to read. And here you just have all the abbreviations defined. Yes, please?
Are those queries like variables? Can I define like my own if I want to? I think it doesn't make sense, but could I?
So what exactly is the question? You want to define your own what?
The prefixes. Like
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very good, very good. You could just call this hoo. What did I do? What did I do? I don't understand this. Okay, I could. This UI is buggy. So if you want to do a project with us, this UI needs work. It's a great UI, but it needs work. Yeah, this is not correct. This is what I wanted to do. I could just, it's a very good question. The question is, does this work? And the answer is yes. It's perfectly, okay, I crashed the backend. Okay. Crashed the backend. Okay, but I'm professional, so let's just restart it. It's our own engine. So the clever scripts in the, okay, I'm not in the, wow, what happened there? Let's see whether it's, yes, so you see it's live. This is here our server running this engine. It's starting, you also see here the data. Actually, it has even more triples internally, 26 million. And let's see whether it's up again, doing all kinds of things. Yeah, and the people are using this, of course. So I immediately get, yeah, and there it's back up again. So yeah, I can just call the prefixes however I want, but typically you call them how they're called in the input data. Okay, and yeah, here I just have these again for your reference. So these are prefix declarations. Of course, there's also order by and limit, and this I think is very easy to understand because it's also select queries with these parentheses. So here I can just say people born in Honolulu. Let's also include the date of birth and let's order it. Let's maybe write that right here, and let's let's do it like this. And now I can just say person, and I also want the date of birth. Okay, this is still warming up. That's why it takes the time. You see here, it's the warm-up queries for the auto-completion. Actually, the queries which give you suggestions, the result of this box here is also the result of a SPARQL query on the same data, which is quite ingenious if you think about it. So you get the suggestions for things which you can type here from the database by just asking a query to the database. This box here is just the result. It's a table, right? It's the result of a SPARQL query on the database on which I am searching. Date of birth, so I just have a variable for date of birth. Let me include it here. Now I get people born in Honolulu with their Arabic name, date of birth, and now very often you want to order things somehow, and this is how you can do it. Desk date of birth. And note the difference here. In SQL you would have written order by date of birth without the question mark, desk as a suffix, but these are the typical syntactic differences to confuse you. So now I get them youngest first. So this is the youngest person in Wikidata which has an Arabic name. In case you didn't know, it's Scott Moore. Okay, very good to know. you learn a lot from, so much interesting information. Here's a very incomplete list of differences. It's super, I already told you more than those which are listed here. Here's some principal differences. I mean, it's very similar. In SQL you have from, in SPARQL you have where, and you can even leave out the where. You don't have a from. Why don't you have a from? Because you don't have these many tables. Think about it, right? Your input is really just one big table of triples, subject, predicate, object. So it's not even called a table, it's just called the input. In database you have these different tables which are connected, primary key, and then a second foreign key, and so on. You don't have that. You just have one big table. So you don't need a from class, you don't need tables, you don't have explicit joins. In SPARQL, the main instrument, of course, there are more constructs. We have already seen a filter. Let me go back to the slide. Queries are really just triple, 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 where at any place you can write a variable. And if you use the same variable twice, it means something. This means I want the name of that same person and the date of birth of that same person. And actually, maybe you already get an idea now, but we will see that in the last part. When you have the same variable here and here, this is exactly a join. And we will see that in the last part. This is 100% corresponds to a join operation. And actually, if you click here on the analysis tree, you will see join operations. So this is I've already shown it in one of the last lectures. When you process this, you also get sequences of operation. More about that in the last part. And then there's these minor differences. Yeah, you have no comma between variables. You have let me write that here. And plus variables start with a question mark. And it's just so that when you see a query, you can immediately see, oh, that's SPARQL. And funny differences like this, right? In SQL, you would write, that's of course wrong. You would write, oh, why didn't it go to that? I'm sorry. You would write this without the question mark, like this. Yeah, these minor differences, right? This is how you would write it in SPARQL, order by descending variable with a question mark, and SQL variable without a question mark, descending afterwards, but it's exactly the same thing. And very easy, there's, I don't have limit. Yes, I had limit here. I'm sorry, I just didn't. Yeah, I didn't talk about it. Limit, of course, the same thing. I order by, now I say, give me the first 10 or so. Let's also do that in our query. Here I have 315 names. Maybe I just want the first 10. Now I only get the first 10, right? Simple enough. So this has the exact same syntax. Okay. Who checks these triples for correctness? Yeah, so in this is of course an interesting topic of research. Is my data meaningful, correct, free from contradictions? It's not. Actually, I think we might see an example in a second. There are, but it's surprising how good the quality is. Like Wikipedia, right? You read a Wikipedia article. Is it correct? It might be completely made up. It's written by people. You can edit it if you want, but still the quality is quite amazing. And let me, just to make that point, where is my, here. I mean, this is OpenStreetMap. This used to be the business of large companies which made a lot of money. So Google, in their first 10 years, I think, Google Maps was there from beginning. They bought their map data from a company. You would see copyright by Tele Atlas, which was a big company, and they paid millions, tens, hundreds of millions of dollars, I think, for this service. And nowadays, these companies don't exist anymore because you have And this is just done by people, right? Somebody walks around somewhere and says, here's a street, here's a building, up to the level of, let's go here, here's a tree. And let's see. Yeah, this tree number 727, it says this leaf cycle, okay, twice per year, leaf type, natural, maybe even count the number of leaves, whatever you want. I mean, the level is amazing, right? This is crowdsourced. And look at this, it's the buildings, it's the streets, it's everything, it's the individual trees, and not just in Germany or in Europe, but I mean, you can go anywhere, let's go here, and you have the same thing. It's not the same level of detail overall, but it's pretty amazing. Okay, so last, just some example queries, and then we have a break. Yeah, I think we already had that one with the first names. Let's just take Sebastian. It's just people with with a certain first name in Wikidata and where they are born. Okay, Sebastian seems to be a Central European name, in case you didn't know. Notable things that happened today. Okay, so let's just ask for things that happened today, on this date in some year. So the month is 11, and today we have the 21st. I have no idea what the result is. So this one takes a little longer. So here you can see what's happening. It's the query. Oh yeah, here you even see where, so it's busy with this join, now it's finished, okay. Oh my, Vladimir Putin was baptized 1952. And Voltaire was born, and North Carolina was founded, and some pope was born. Oh my, what a day. And Björk was born. I don't know if Björk, the Icelandic singer, knows that she was born on the same day as Vladimir Putin was baptized. And Aston Villa was founded. Okay, so all this interesting information, right? That's Wikidata. Here's something that's actually very useful. So that's all German universities. I mean, these data are really useful. So getting a list of the university, how many universities do we have in Germany? About 100. Here you can see them on a map. This kind of information you don't get very easily. It's clear that it's out there, but how do you get it? Well, if you search a source like Wikidata, you get it. So these are the universities in Germany. So universities, not Fachhochschulen, and their student count and where they are. So you can also see that the distribution, they are fairly well distributed over Germany and so on. Yeah, and even, so that's really useful information. Yeah, let's look at Uniprot. Uniprot, oh, I see. I can't show it to you because I'm just building a new index. Oh my, let's see whether I can fix that. Oh yeah, it's just building a new index here. 110 billion triples. It's just indexing the new latest data set, which is fairly big. 111 billion, 100 million triples. Let me just look at this takes a while. It's using, okay, if I now start this, I risk killing everything, but I will do it anyway. I don't know if, then maybe let's come back to this in a second. Okay, here's PubChem, information about chemical data. So these are just chemical substances which are processed by the body easily because they have a small molecular weight. So here we have paracetamol, for example. That was just an example. Here's again some, tell me any country or bigger region in the world, can also be a Black Forest or whatever, a region, a country, a city, something big. Australia, okay. Australia, that's big. Australia, so let's see, all the streets in Australia. Okay, this is wrong here, it's an old query. This is asking for all the streets in Australia. in OpenStreetMap, 2.6 million. Let's look at them on a map. All the streets in Australia. Yeah, you see a certain, yeah, that looks correct. If I now go here, that should be a street, and it's a piece of street in OpenStreetMap. Interesting, right? Distribution is also interesting. I mean, I think, yeah, so it's a bit lopsided. In Germany, it would probably look different. Let's do it for Germany. I mean, that's a lot of data. I don't know if this works. All streets in Germany, all pieces of street. Let's do that. I look at how fast this is. 14 million streets. Let's look at them on a map. Drawing 14 million streets on a map. Is that possible? Yes, it's possible. So that's the street network of Germany. So here, yeah, you also see Berlin, Ruhrgebiet. Here's the Oberrheingraben. And if you go in here, you see the individual streets. Okay, fast food restaurants in Germany. That's again combining information from Wikidata and OpenStreetMap. Let's see. Interesting. There used to be a mistake here, which is no longer there. That's a pity. There used to be a ferry line, which was mistakenly labeled as McDonald's. So you would always have these things here. It's no longer there. You would have this nice map, and then you would have one ferry line, which was just a mistake in the data. But yeah, if you do these queries, you can do them, you can play around with them yourself. You will see very few mistakes. There are mistakes, but so these are all fast food restaurants in. I don't know, does this work? No, that's the wrong query, right? Yeah, that's just the wrong query. And the nice thing here is it's always the same. You just put in the data set. You have very many different data sets here. Wikidata, proteins, chemistry, same query language, same principle. You can even combine them. That's very nice. Okay, and I think time for a break now, and then we resume in 5 minutes. So we are back online. There was a question about particular query and an answer to that. So the link to this engine is in the slides, and of course feel free to play around with it to get a feeling for the language. And I also got this query to work here. I just started it. It wasn't started. And just, yeah, this is this enormous, look at this number. I mean, it's just, yeah, that's the thing about numbers. You add a digit and it's a factor of 10. You add 3 digits, a factor of, this is quite a large number. This is 110 billion, which means 110,100 million. And this is just running on a, I mean, this is also amazing. This is running on this one machine here, which is just a 1,000 euro desktop, nothing special. And it's running here. And it's just a query which gives, it's a group by, yeah, it has a group by. And it just takes, let's just look at it for a minute and appreciate the enormousness of the data. It just, for every organism, counts all the protein data that we know. So here we have gamma protobacteria bacterium, and there are 1.8 million proteins known for it. Here's an example protein. Here's the amino acid sequence, just the enormity of the data, right? Just to show an example. And here we just ordered the organisms by how many proteins we know about them. So here we have human immunodeficiency virus 1, we also know a lot. And I would expect that somewhere down in the list we find Homo sapiens probably. Yes, there we have it, 68 to 207, 892 proteins where we know everything. So enormous amounts of information, right? So and this query basically groups, processes all the information, right? All these triples. Okay, so back to and maybe I kill this now to not impede my index building process here, just building something new. So 2 more parts, reification. That's important for the exercise sheet, and it's also important to understand, but it's simple enough. I have brought in a simple example. How do you model complex information? I mean, it's nice. I mean, it's always nice. You have a very nice model. That's how we started. Everything is just triples, but maybe it's too simple. Maybe I just cannot use it for everything because some information does not fit into this framework. So, what about, let's go back to our movie theme. Meryl Streep is famous for having won many Oscars, 3 of them. It's quite hard to win 3 Oscars. And here are the 3 movies she won them for. Kramer versus Kramer, that's an old divorce drama. 1980, Best Supporting Actress. Sophie's Choice. 1982, Best Actress. The Iron Lady, Portrait of Margaret Thatcher. 2011, Oscar for Best Actress. Now the question is, so Meryl Streep won all of these 3. I haven't written here, that's the Oscar, Meryl Streep. How do I cast it into triples? So let's just make an attempt. Here's an attempt. So if I do it like I did it on the first slide, okay, she won an award, this Oscar, yes, she won it. She won this award, I just abbreviated here. Now I want to say, she won this award in a certain year, right? This is not the year of the movie necessarily, that's the year where she won the award. So let's take the predicate, Meryl Streep won an award in the year 1980. And she won an award for this film. So what do you think about this? Is this a good way to model this information? I mean, certainly the information is there, but what do you think? Yeah?
We use the information like which of those 2 awards she won for which specific film.
Yeah, exactly. We are losing information, right? We see her, she won an award, but we don't have the connection to which film. That's the problem with triples. We are kind of losing the connection between things. So we know she won an award in 3 years for these 3 movies. We also don't have the connection here. The order doesn't mean anything. And here's even a little bit subtle thing. She won Best Actress twice, but you can't write the triple Meryl Streep won award Best Actress twice. You can't just have that in. It's a set of triples, not a multi-set. It's just, yeah, she won an Oscar. Whether she won it once, twice, multiple times, you don't know from that data. So that's somehow not the right way. So yeah, that's what we just said. And it seems that this information is just inherently one way. If you think of one award, that's called a predicate. In the RDF world, it's a binary predicate, right? Because it has a subject and an object. So from the view of the predicate, I have 2 pieces of information which I connect, which I also have the graph view, right? I'm an edge coming from one entity to another. So it seems to be suitable for binary predicates. But here, this award thing, for the kind of information I just showed you, seems to be more than binary, right? The award connects this person, Meryl Streep, to a particular award, Best Supporting Actress, in a particular year for a particular movie. So this here looks like a 4-array, right? This would be, this here is the predicate like connecting 4 information. It looks like I want to write the following in my data. Not a triple, but a quintuple. Right? So this this corresponds to a 4-array predicate. If I write it like this, that's a predicate which just connects 4 things. Actually, in the graph view, that would be a hypergraph. Yeah?
I think the 0 from last.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's 2011, right? For some reason this loses track of 2011, I think. Oh, and there's this nice autocorrection by PowerPoint. The AI is already here in these forms. Clippy. So, is it 2011 according to my, yes, 2011. So, yeah, in a database that would be of course no problem. Now just have a table, we can have as many columns in a table as we want. But in the data, in the knowledge graph RDF world, we are somehow constrained to table with 3 columns. And that's how you do it. It's actually, if you think about it for a while, you would also get there. But let me just tell you, you use additional entities which just serve as a hub for more information. And this is how it, and let me immediately show it to you in the real world. So this is how it looks like. And let's break this down and understand this, because this slide kind of explains reification. Let's just take the information that Meryl Streep won an Oscar, and actually a particular Oscar, Best Actress, in 2011 for the movie The Iron Lady. Here we just have, this is, and by the way, why is it called ampersand, this funny add prefix? This is because this is input data here, hence prefix, not prefix. A bit strange, but that's how it is. In a SPARQL query, we had a prefix in capital letters. When you have it in the input data, you'd write it very similarly, but like this, just in case you wonder. So these are just abbreviations. We have already seen that. Now we have some new abbreviations, P, PS, PQ. What does it mean? Not so easy to understand, but we are explaining it now. And now it says Q873, and let's just go to Wikidata to check what these things mean. And it's actually, let me do it the other way around. I can tell you that Q873 is the entity Meryl Streep. So this is Meryl Streep. P166, what's P166? You can also just type it here. Ah, okay, it's not like, I have to Google it. The URL is apparently a little bit different. Property talk, ah yeah. Oh, it's property : the URLs are a little bit different. That's the predicate for receiving an award. And it has a funny prefix, P. Let's forget that for a second. So this now goes to some new entity which has this long name now, WDS. It's some artificial entity, and this entity now stands for a particular award of Meryl Streep. So this predicate leads me to an artificial entity called a mediator entity or a statement node in Wikidata, which is just created. It's just a node that stands for the information about a particular award. And from that node, now I have triples with that node as subject. And this ID is actually longer, and we see it in a second in real life. For the real data, it's actually an even longer ID. And so now I have the triple. Okay, this particular has, and now again I have 166 for award, and this here is Oscar for Best Actress. It's the Oscar for Best Actress. This here is information about when was the award, and here it says 2012. That should be 2011, but actually it's and this, I think, is not easy to understand when you see it the first time. So this award, this here stands for the predicate 5. We can look up 585, stands for 585. What's the property? It's just a point in time. There's a predicate for something as a certain point in time. This particular award has point in time 2011. And then there's 1686. Let's look at 1686. 1686. That stands for something given for something, for some award. So you see the vocabulary here is important. People, Wikidata people here have thought a lot about this. So we have a predicate for this was given for this work here. And these are now my triples. Right? So Meryl Streep has won this award. That's now not the name of an award, it's a new entity which I introduced, which stands for a particular award, and from this, with this entity as subject, I have all these kinds of information. And maybe it's, I think, useful to draw a little picture here. So I now have Q873, and now I have this one thing here. This is now this WDS. This is now this statement node here, and from this statement node now I have all kinds of additional information, right? And this is how So I want to connect this to, and I just introduced this intermediate node. And then this information is all connected because it all belongs to this node, and this problem goes away. And I think you have to try this yourself to really understand it. So I'm just giving you the example and how it works. And let's maybe, before I go to I think it's a good way is to just try to write the query for it. I think that also helps. So let's type Meryl Streep here. So Q873. And now let's say we want her awards. It's P166, we have already seen that. And now we get her awards. We get a list of awards, so if I would just put a variable here and write it here, now I get a list of the awards, not their names. Actually, here's a way to automatically add the names, just adding some triples to the query. So that's just all the awards she won, but now I don't have the information for what she won them, right? And now look what happens if I write a P here. I just choose a different predicate, and now this predicate doesn't go to the name of the award, but instead goes to these funny things here. So this is now Meryl Streep. This is award, but a variant of this. It's technically a different IRI. And now each object here is, and let's just, because I think it's interesting, each here stands for a particular award of Meryl Streep. And let's just output them. Let's just take a variable for them. So I claim that each of them, so these are these artificial identifiers. Each of them stand for a particular award, and these are also URIs. Let's click on one of them. And if I click on one of them, now you see in the database this actually stands for this whole award, right? So actually I can go to this link. I mean, they wouldn't have to do it like that, but it's just very interesting that they did. So this stands for a particular award of, so I'm on the Meryl Streep page here, right? It's on the, you can also click on another one here. Yeah, and now it's this, okay, honorary doctor of art. It doesn't even have to be award for a movie, right? So that's, wow, I didn't know that. She got an honorary doctorate from Harvard. It's a bit strange. Silver Bear for Best Actress, and now you have additional information. It's really quite clever, right? This is quite clever. And let me just... So, why these different prefixes? You have these different prefixes. So WDT, we have seen that. Let me just do it again here. If I have Meryl Streep, I want just to know which awards did she get. Did she get an Oscar or not? I don't care for what. And then I just use this WDT. So this leads me directly Yeah, there's no statement nodes involved. It just leads me directly to the information, the name of the award. P leads me to an intermediate node from where I can then go to more information. PS, and let's also do that now. If I do the P thing here, now I get these, now I just take a variable here. Now I go from here, take this as a subject. Now, if I want to go from, oh, this is not doing what I, okay. Now, PS, this now leads me from this statement node to the actual name of the award. So P, so this is now a detour. If I just wanted that information, I could have taken WDT directly. But from that statement node, I get to the name of the award like this. And now I also have more information like the point in time. This now has another funny name, PQ. No, I don't want the point in time. I want the for work here. Now you see you get movie names here. So I can just say movie here and so on. And we could continue this. For example, we can, the award, I only want Oscars. So let's take, this should be and there we have it, Academy Award. Could type Oscar here, Academy Award. And now I have award received, movie. Let me automatically add the name triples. And here I have the 3 awards here, and each of this is the object which leads to that information. So there's this naming scheme. I have several versions of a predicate. They are all called P166, but with different prefixes. So technically they are different IRIs. One leads directly to the main information. This leads to a statement node with more information. This leads from the statement node to the main information. This leads from the statement nodes to other information. You have to try it out yourself to fully understand it, and also the ingenuity in this, right? So here P1686, which is the predicate that something was given for something, you can't just use this with a word, right? This can be useful in other contexts. Maybe let's, one more example. For example, let's take Germany and the population. Just comes to my mind. 1082, now I get the population of Germany. It's 83 million, right? But maybe I want to know more information about it. I want to know when was this population measured, and so let's just do the P thing here. And now actually you can see there are 37 population measurements in Wikidata. The data set is just, so this, each of these things now stands for, and now you can see, when actually it's, and so PS now leads me to the actual population, and then there's also something point in time. When was this measured? Okay, now I can choose a certain, so if I want a certain population measurement, like maybe in, or maybe I can just take all of them, right? It's just a date, and now I can just, just take the population and the date and just order it by date. Now I can see according to the, it's ordered by date. Now I have the population measurements over time. So you see in 454 it was 70 million. Also all that data is there. So you can model everything. And the way that they're just called like this, these are technically, I mean, this is just an abbreviation for the prefix, for some IRI part, which is different. But they just have this common suffix so that you see that they all belong to the same thing. It's really quite clever, but you have to play around with it yourself. Yes, please?
Can you go one slide back?
Yes?
Those 4 triples at the end, those are the information inputs, and if I want to search for something like that, or some combination of those, then I replace some of those with a variable name. Exactly.
That's exactly what I did. Yes. So this is the input. Yeah, and in my search, for example, here, yeah, now I'm searching, yeah. Again, it's the same thing. I'm searching for assignments to these variables so that all the triples here exist. So I'm looking for statement nodes and population and date so that this effectively gives me what we have just seen. It took me a while to understand this. I think no amount of explanation can make it clear to you immediately. You have to play around with it. But it's really clever. And the clever thing is that, look, this P8, this is point in time. Point in time, you can have it for a lot of information, right? It could be I think one of the queries on the exercise sheet is the monarchs. That's when something started. There are also predicates for something started, something ended. So this here is not a predicate that's in any way specific to population, but it's just a predicate that can be used as additional information for all kinds of statements. Very clever, very clever. Oh, it's really clever, yeah. So, and of course, yeah, this is what we have just seen. So I'm just showing it again here. I mean, the concept is very easy, but now formulating queries, so that's the query which I've just showed you, which we have constructed together, right? That's the query for getting all the Oscars by Meryl Streep. This one here, yeah. And here I've added, let me maybe remove the statement node. I don't want it in my result, right? These are the 3 Oscars. This looks like a simple query. You could type it into Google. You would even get the right result, I think, because it's so popular. But you had to write a pretty complex SPARQL query, and you have to know a lot of information. And let me I summarized this for you. What do you need to know to formulate such a query? That's basically what you have to understand about SPARQL. You have to know the right definitions. You have to know that these things, but of course a tool can help you with that by just putting them there automatically. You have to know these things. Okay, I'm searching for Meryl Streep, 873. I can go to Wikidata, look it up, or we saw the auto-completion. This is the hardest one. How do you know P, PS, PQ? That's really hard, even for experts. And then you have to know these additional language constructs. You don't need them for the exercise sheet, but I've shown it to you, right? That if you don't do that, you get the names in all 300 languages, and you don't want that. So this just filters by language and so on. So even for a relatively simple query, you have to know a lot. But if you understood this once for one query, then actually you have unlocked a whole world. Yeah, and this is just one appetizer for the next lecture in 2 weeks. So what you have seen here, what I've used all the time, was our own engine. So actually many of students like you have already contributed to this. Also this UI started from a great student project. So you see here, now I'm looking for Oscars. How am I supposed to know what the ID of Oscar is? I already see it in the list here. Also the list somehow depends on what I've typed. So far it's context sensitive, but I could also type just the first letters here, and now I get Q1902. And I'm sure if I could have also searched it here. No, I don't want the Oscars, I want the Oscars. They're called the Academy Awards. It's Q19020. So it helps me with that. So this, by the way, is on GitHub if you want to have a look. It's a big repository, very active. And so we have many thesis and project topics related to this. So if you want to contribute to a big open source project that's actually used, many users, many applications, that's a great way to, people love this, and students have already contributed a lot to this. This offers auto-completion. We have seen that it's very important. You type something, and you get suggestions which make sense. And this is actually something we will talk about in 2 weeks, because we skip next week. Because this auto-completion thing is actually, if you talk about information systems, this is database and information systems. Auto-completion, you need it in all kinds of contexts. You know what you want to type, you just don't want to type the whole thing, you want a suggestion. So how do you do that? That will be the topic in 2 weeks. Okay, so last part, how do we translate this to SQL? And we will do this by example, so it's just 5 more slides. And for the exercise sheet, you implement it yourself. And now first we have to say, now we want to translate to SQL, we have to say, how is the data stored in our database? And for this example, and now pay attention, because let's just consider 2 predicates. The acted in, I just want the couples who played in the same movie. So let's just say I have 2 tables. One for who acted in which movies, and I'm not using any IDs here for the sake of simplicity. So Sean Bean played in Games of Thrones, and so on. So I have some, let's see, how big is it? It's just something I've compiled. Okay, not so bad, 600,000 pairs who acted in which movies. And I also have something like who is married to who, or has been married to who, 73,000, and that's just also, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, Ronald Reagan, so it's somehow ordered by, we see Anne Hathaway again here. Albert Einstein was married twice. We don't have the information yet, which time and so on. For now, just 2 different tables. That's important. I mean, we just have 1 table for predicate here, so that's one natural way. If you have a knowledge graph, just 1 table for each predicate. So you don't need the name of the predicate here, right? I don't have to say married to, because this whole table is only about married to. For the exercise sheet, you just should put, like it's in the real world, everything in 1 big table. So you don't have different table for each predicate, you have 1 big table with 3 columns, subject, predicate, object. Deliberately do it like this so that you can or have to do some thinking yourself. The exercise sheet is really nice. Sebastian put a lot of work into it. So, and now comes. So we have these 2 tables. I think that's clear enough. Married to, and the same, let me show it again. Acted in. This is my SPARQL query. And now I want to know the corresponding SQL query. And you have to tell me how it works. And the exercise sheet will be to make that general and implement it. It's not trivial, but it's easier than one might think. So maybe think about it for a little bit, and as usual, let's start from the from clause. Which tables do we need? That's the last intellectual effort we do in this today. Yeah, you have an idea?
Acted in and married to.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of, we probably need both tables, right? So let's just acted in and comma, we are back in SQL world, married to. Okay, and by the way, let me do this right away. This is something we haven't really introduced, but it's quite simple. You can introduce abbreviations as a, comma. So then you don't always, when you want to refer to that table, you can just It's just an abbreviation. It's very simple. M. Okay. So we have that table A and that table M. And now we want where? Suggestions? Well, what should I write here? So A has just two. So this is just person film, acted in, and married to is person 1, person 2. And I can also, let me just, so acted in, and you can think about it a little more. So acted in is just a person, and I call it film here, film, and film is British movie, and we have married to. That's, and you just think how to do that in SQL. It's not so easy. Person 1, person 2. So that's the schema. And you're stuck, right? Because, and it's good to feel stuck, to know, so what's the problem? We somehow have, how we get the two people here connected, right? I mean, we could say something about, I mean, let's just, I mean, one way, if you're stuck, I mean, you certainly want to say something about m. dot person 1, right? Equals to something, and then you probably want to say, I mean, that's clear. Person 2 equal to something. Yeah, I mean, you can just, like a language model, just write something and see if it makes sense. You just have this one table person here. I mean, this, you could just write it like this. You should, somehow it's clear you need both tables. Let's just write both tables. And now probably we need to some constraints here. Person 1 is this person, person 2. Does this make sense? I mean, what would be the result of that if I do that? And let's just type the query. Let's just do that. While you have it in your head now, like a chessboard. Let's just import. Oh, what comes first? TSV or the name of the table? Oh no, this is not what I wanted. Oh my, quitting SQLite is hard. I'm sorry. SQLite 3, import acted in, and import, oh no, I forgot the separator, then it doesn't work. I'm sorry that I'm interrupting your separator tab, import acted in, TSV acted in. Takes some time, that's good. Married to, TSV married to, schema. Okay, that looks good. We have two tables like this. Let's now do select star from acted in as A, comma, as is just abbreviation, married to as M, where M dot person 1 is equal A dot person, and this kind of, we don't really know what we are doing, but let's just do it. What will be the result of that query? What do you think? That's always the predictor of, you should be able to predict what. Okay, I see. Before I go to what's suggested in the chat, what will be the result? Yes?
I think it's the married couples where each one of those has played in at least one film, but not necessarily the same.
Okay. It's empty. That was a good guess. I thought it was, I also wasn't quite sure, but this is, yeah, SQL is also not so, I mean, this is like the same, this is basically saying, if you just read it like math, a dot person is same here and there, it's like saying m person 1 is equal to m person 2, which can't happen. So this is not the right way to do it. Yeah, only people that are married to themselves, which are apparently rare in this data set. Can we join, somebody wrote, acted in table with itself to get all pairs of actors? Oh yeah, joining with itself, let's do that. We can have the same table twice. And I think we didn't do that in the, but nothing speaks against that. You can just take the cross product of a table with itself. So if let's maybe do this, let's do it here and then write it on the slide in the end. And let's do the following. Let's just take the acted in table and let's have it here for, that's the table. And let's just compute the dot product, the cross product, Cartesian product with itself. Now I have all, that's a big cross product, right? And let's do the following to make it a little bit, let's do A1 dot film is equal to A2 dot film. Now I just want every row with every row here where the films are the same. What will I get? What do I get now? What's a row? Yeah?
All pairs of actors who acted in the same film.
Yeah, all pairs of actors who acted in the same film, exactly. And we could, let's just look at it. We do have limit. I mean, that's the nice thing here. We can just, okay, yeah, so we have, yeah, this is just, right, one row from the table, one row from the same table, just started somewhere, and the movie is the same. So yeah, I could have A1 dot person, comma, A2 dot person, comma, and the film is the same anyway, because I have an equality constraint here. So yeah, now I just get pair of people who acted in the same movie, right? And now it's, I think, easy, right? I just also add the married to as, no, not here. Let's just add another table as M. Yeah, and now I just add the constraint. Yeah, what constraint do I need now? If I just now, I mean, now I have this information. Now I have also the information about married couples. What do I add? Let's see what the chat says. Oh yeah, there's a suggestion, okay. And M dot person 1 is A1 dot person and M dot person 2 equal A2 dot person. Okay, and there was the suggestion A1 person not equal A2 person. Okay, that's just to avoid people married to themselves, but we already saw that we don't have them. Let's see what we have now. Yeah, and now we should get, yeah, we're not, that should be the information we, Something is wrong?
Does the table also contain the reverse information?
I think so, right? We have no, yeah. We see actually, yeah, it's always like this, just by the, I mean, I didn't put it in a particular order, but yes. And it makes sense, right? If we wanted that, I could have, I mean, one easy trick to avoid that, but I'm just mentioning it here, would be just output it in the order, lexicographic order. So I want A1 person less than, I mean, they are not identical, so now I just get them in the order, the one which is alphabetically smaller first. But yeah. Yeah, and let's just verify, is Laura Dern, Jeff, or where? I mean, I'm not, I'm watching the movies, I'm not following who's married to who. Married. Oh yeah, apparently they were married. Okay. Where, Jeff Goldblum? Yes, romance found a way on the set of Jurassic Park. Okay, so it seems to be correct. Yeah, these actors, they act in a movie and then they marry. And then they. Okay, let's just write this here, and it's also something. Think about it yourself, and I think we can leave some of it here. So this is from acted in as, I want this once, and then I have married to once. As M. And then I have M person 1 is A1 dot person. I think that's what I want here. And please ask if there is any A2 dot person, and it's just one more constraint, and oh yeah, which one is missing? One is missing. There's one constraint missing. I want the constraint here, I'm just writing the obvious stuff in the top. M person 1. Same movie, yeah, that's correct. Same movie, so A1 dot film equal to A2 dot film. And let's not forget the semicolon, and since they are the same, okay. And now, okay, now we have to come to an end. And now the question is and if you think about it, and I mean, it's on the slides, you don't have to look on the slides if you want to try it yourself. The question is, how do you turn this into a general algorithm? I give you a query with any triples here, with some variables, anywhere really, and you should come up with this query. And I'm giving you a hint now. If you don't want to hear the hint, you can close your ears or just forget it anyway. It's no coincidence I have acted in here twice. I have two triples with acted in here, and I have the table here twice. I've married to once. So for each triple here, I have a table here. It's the table of that predicate. Or if you have all in the same table, you just have one table per triple. And now, why do I have M person 1 equal to A1 person? Well, that's actually because I have the same variable here in two different tuples. Same variable in two different triples corresponds to a join. And here I have person 2 and person 2, and that's why I have this equality. And then I have film here. So actually I have person 1 in two triples. That's why I have this constraint. I have person 2 in these two triples. That's why I have this constraint. And I have the variable film here in two triples, which is why I have this constraint. And here is the yeah, this is so the general algorithm. It's actually quite simple, but you have to do the exercise to understand it. That's the point of the exercise, and I really don't want to give too much away. If you have k triples, you just repeat. For the exercise sheet, you will have everything in one big table. You repeat it k times. Then you keep track. We do the parsing for you, or Sebastian has done the parsing of the query for you. Then you just keep track, okay, a certain variable occurs in these triples, and you have to remember at which position, whether it's object or subject. That's important. And then you just add all these equalities. So when and just as a last hint, so if you would have the same variable here 3 times, you need 2 equalities to say that they are all equal, but that's on the slide. So let's just, is there one more? Oh yeah, this is just one. You have to write this in Python, so you should write a program where you enter a SPARQL query, it's automatically translated to SQL, and then it's executed on a SQLite database. On data which we give you, which I show in a second, and it's the last thing I will do. And we didn't do that yet. Calling SQLite from SQL queries from SQLite is very simple. From Python, it's also very simple. Here's just a piece of code how you do it. So it's just how you call SQLite conveniently from SQL. And okay. And please think about if there are any more questions. I just want to give a glimpse and information about the exercise sheet. So this is, it's again a new lecture, lot of work, also for Sebastian doing the sheet, because we did something new, and also creating, I mean, look, Wikidata is, we could have just given you the whole Wikidata set, but then okay, you don't need super expensive machines, but 19 billion triples is maybe a bit too large. And getting nice subsets which are suitable for exercise sheet is a lot of work. And so we are still not quite finished. But we have a first version. Is this, oh yeah, there it is. So you should implement this SPARQL to SQL translation. So you get a query of this form, and you translate it into SQL query. And Sebastian has already written the parsing for you. And then we give you 2 versions of a nice data set. And here's one version. So we give you one version where you actually don't have these funny names, P something, Q something, but you have nice names, like in the toy example in the beginning. You also don't have reification, like these statement nodes, and it's also not so big. Let's just see. I mean, not so big doesn't mean small, but it's only 14 million. Tiny, 14 million triples, tiny data set. And then you should just figure out, so all CEOs born in Germany, gender and birth date ordered. And then we give you another data set. It's not yet finished. We're still working on this, but should be finished tonight or tomorrow, the latest, where you have another query and where you have the real data with these P and Q and statement nodes and everything. So really, I urge you to do the exercise to really understand this stuff and all the subtle things we have seen. And once again, no lecture next week. You have also 2 weeks for the exercise sheet. We have a lecture again in 2 weeks. Are there any questions right now? about anything. Okay, then that's it. Thank you and see you again in 2 weeks.